Hello and welcome to this Serial Geek TV episode commentary for Fog on Boulder Hill, an episode of Mask produced by Geek. I wanted to talk about this episode of one of my favourite shows because it's so very unique and at times doesn't even feel like an episode of Mask, not in a bad way, in a very good way, and not in a bizarre way like all of those divisive Season 2 episodes. As I've said in the past, Mask was shown over here in the UK on the Wide Awake Club, often split into two parts, sometimes aired on the same day and sometimes aired across a Saturday and a Sunday. But, as I've also said in the past, cartoons in the UK, when shown on terrestrial television, aired once a week, and sometimes months would go by without a single new episode airing, and one day that cartoon you enjoyed would just stop, Over here in the UK, as the toy line cartoon and comic books were dominating 1986 and 1987, Panini released a sticker album, but because the episodes were being shown once a week, there were episodes within the sticker album that had yet to air, and in some cases, certain toys appeared in the sticker album, in animated form, that had yet to even be released in the UK. I remember my friend Roger Evans and he and I were such fans of Mask, and we used to have all-out battles with the figures every Saturday when he would visit. When we saw Fog on Boulder Hill in the sticker album, and he had a particular sticker, we were confused. It was a sticker depicting a beautifully animated scene in the episode, with Miles Mayhem in his outlaw uniform, Sly Rax and Vanessa Warfield avoiding an oil slick. But at that point, we hadn't even heard or seen Outlaw, let alone Mayhem in this different uniform. And back then, no internet, the joys of discovery. Very exciting times. But here's the part that will probably wow some of you. I missed the Wide Awake Club airing of this episode the first time around, and it would not be repeated on terrestrial TV, and by the time I received cable TV, the series had stopped airing. So the first time I saw this episode, that I'd only ever seen in sticker album form, was in the late 90s when I began tape trading in order to complete the series. Thankfully, this episode proved to be one of my favourites and was worth the lengthy wait. Thus ends my history with this episode. Now, let's get on with the commentary for this particular, as I said, unique tale. Already this episode is rather unique as we're at Boulder Hill, as is Scott and T-Bob and Buddy Hawks. Normally in an episode, when we first see the Tracker family, we would be at Matt Tracker's mansion, which was a distance away, connected to Boulder Hill by an underground transport system. So seeing everyone at Boulder Hill, the Mask base of operations, is a very fresh and somewhat exciting experience. Why are we already here with no evident mission in place? And hey, now we're going to watch Buddy, Scott and Clara Simpson drive into town. This doesn't feel very exciting, does it? But don't end this video yet, because things really are about to pick up in the most unexpectedly dramatic of ways. I'll let this scene play out because the shift in tone and direction is just awesome, and it's one of my favourite moments in the series. Yeah, that sudden reveal, the music, all those glorious Venom vehicles, and we're only a few minutes into the episode. As I said, and will keep saying, very unique. And again, continuing this fresh feeling, we have Matt Tracker and Bruce Sato in a room, working on some Mask technology. It was incredibly rare to see this in the series. In the episode Green Nightmare, we see Alex Sector creating a new power source for the Masks, but that was key to the story. Here we have Matt and Bruce being alerted to Venom's impending arrival, just beavering away on their gimmicks. Now, I'm going to go on a probable rant about the cartoon. Maybe rant is too harsh a word, but it's a problem the cartoon faced on a couple of occasions, nowhere more than this episode with the awesome action scene we're about to see. Mask fans will be all too familiar with what I'm about to say. When the Mask toy line was developed by Kenner, the premise had the heroes of Mask and the villains of Venom well aware of each other's true identities. Miles Mayhem knew Matt Tracker was the leader of Mask and vice versa. This facet was adhered to in the comic books associated with Mask, both the DC comics and the ones published in the UK. However, the cartoon went with the premise that Venom were completely unaware of the Mask agents' true identities. This led to a few problems, especially when it came to Boulder Hill, Mask's base of operations located in Nevada. I'll reveal the plot here in order to get my point across. So, we've already seen the elderly Clara Simpson drive her car up to Boulder Hill for repairs. Unknown to her, some stolen $20 printing plates are hidden within the vehicle, and now Venom are heading in pursuit of the car. They want those $20 printing plates. And as we've just seen, Boulder Hill's defense mode has been activated, in which the gas station becomes a formidable fortress complete with laser cannons that were formerly gas pumps. Interestingly, and not seen in any other canon, vents by the road suddenly deploy a great deal of fog around Boulder Hill, thus lending credence to the title of the episode. Now, as the agents of Venom approach, they question their whereabouts due to the thick bank of fog. Their approach is met with a great deal of firepower from the now transformed gas station. As we've just seen, the laser fire returned by Boulder Hill creates a hole in the road, large enough for Venom's oil tanker Outlaw to fall into. Miles Mayhem orders his troops to return fire, but they are confused as to who is attacking them. Overpowered, Mayhem orders that Venom retreat, to which Sly Rax asks, in relation to Mrs. Simpson, "Wasn't that her house?" This is a very strange piece of dialogue. How could one assume that the bombardment of laser fire originates from the house of an elderly lady? Even more confusingly, minutes later, Venom are seen at her house, which unsurprisingly has no cannons.
You locked me out! I almost got blasted to bits!
But here's the key point I'm trying to make. If at this point you're thinking that Venom are well aware that this is Mask's base of operations, you'd be wrong, as Matt Tracker soon muses as to why Venom would attack a gas station. In the episode Book of Power, very early in the Mask series, Venom tracked down an ancient book to Boulder Hill, but on that occasion, Mask faced them head on, no fog. So Venom at some point must be aware that Boulder Hill is the base of operations for Mask. But it's one of those things in the cartoon that the writers had to work with, or in many cases work around, in order to explain certain things. As we'll see later in the episode, Miss Simpson reveals that the car is at Boulder Hill, prompting Venom to return to where they had just tracked the car down to, leading to another great action scene. But at no point do Venom muse that Boulder Hill is the base of operations for Mask. It's so strange. Yes, this episode is perplexing at times, but it's great in so many other places. Plus, we have a lot of T-Bob. T-Bob's rants throughout this episode are great. As we saw during the Venom attack, he was locked outside, completely forgotten by his allies. Poor little guy. This scene contains one of my favourite unintentional brutal comments from Alex Sector. So the Mask team begin to do their research, and upon finding Clara Simpson has no secrets, Alex describes her as quite stunningly unimportant. That's so harsh. Sorry, elderly lady, but you made no impression on the world.
It's quite stunningly unimportant.
Quite stunningly unimportant. My goodness. Now, we've seen Mask put together pieces to solve a puzzle in many an episode, but this one is, again I say, unique, because they're trying to figure out why Venom attacked a gas station. As I said, Mask are under the impression that Venom has no idea that Boulder Hill is the home base of Mask, even though Venom have visited before. Now, this is where the plot starts to become a tad confusing. Buddy Hawks took Clara Simpson back to her house with Scott, and yet we'll soon see that Venom are there, so why didn't Buddy cross paths with them on the reverse trip? And yeah, why didn't Venom just go to her house in the first place? T-Bob is left behind, and for fans of the character like me, some may call me a misguided fan, it's a shame, but we'll soon find out why the writer kept him behind at the gas station. And yes, some great sequences here of Thunderhawk and Firefly taking to the skies. Now, you want to talk about great animation direction. Here's how you open up a scene. Ready? Just close-ups of people's reactions looking at the camera. It's almost like a homage to Sergio Leone's beautiful style of directing. And it's powerful too. We didn't need to see Venom approach the house or invade the house or exchange any words. Everything we need to know is established with a few visuals with no dialogue. That is how you direct animation. And I know Scott Tracker annoys more than a few people, but his inclusion in this episode as a companion for Mrs. Simpson is ideal. His youth contrasts well with her twilight years. He can show signs of genuine bravery without it coming across as false or silly. Also, I pointed out this in my episode commentary for The Creeping Desert. Here we see Nash Gori sporting navy blue trousers, whereas other appearances, such as The Creeping Desert, have him in light green trousers that match his shirt. I should give a shout out to Miss Lion. Miss Lion? I'm getting my animated dogs confused. It's because I recently worked on a bunch of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends videos for the channel, so the show is quite clearly fresh in my mind. Clara Simpson's dog is named Cleopatra. Nice animation model for the dog too, but I could really do without the constant yapping throughout the episode. I should take a moment to talk about the visuals of this episode. Whilst it may not be on the same level seen in Assault on Liberty, Vanishing Point, The Lost Riches of Rio or The Lipizzaner Mystery, this is the same team that animated the Artemis Enigma episode, and oddly the prints of their episodes, as in the studio, contain scratches and dirt not usually seen on broadcast masters, but the animation direction throughout, as we've already seen, is rather striking with some very interesting choices. Also, the characters look nice, bold and heroic. If you want an example of bad animation in an episode of Mask, check out Mystery of the Rings. Gah! Here's what I really like about Scott in this episode. He's proactive, but in a good way, not a silly or annoying way. He escapes the fire and immediately rushes for a hose in order to fight the blaze, and I think if that were me and it wasn't my house, after escaping, you'd probably find me on the floor in the fetal position, rocking side to side. And now we're in Venom's latest scenic base of operations. They really do travel the world and find some nice places to stay, don't they? I think I mentioned this before again on my episode commentary for The Creeping Desert, but I do love Miles Mayhem's outlaw uniform. Yes, you could argue that it made him look like just another Venom agent. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as all of them are awesome, but I think seeing Miles and even Matt Tracker in other uniforms was always pleasing to the eye. Unfortunately, Matt Tracker's Volcano uniform received very little screen time compared to Mayhem's Outlaw uniform. Also, Mayhem's Python mask was fantastic. I've already written a 50 things about Miles Mayhem video for this channel, so expect that almost definitely next year in 2025. How's that for some planning? Seeing the mask agents fighting a blaze is again something we haven't really seen. Usually they are fighting against epic odds, not a house fire. Not that a house fire is any less important, but you get my point. Also, it's really awesome to see Julio Lopez's mask streamer in action. Interestingly, if you look at when it's used in this episode, the stream has a slight glow to it, which would kind of make sense given the almost magical properties of the masks themselves. But in every other episode, streamers' various streams are coloured as the liquids they're supposed to represent, without any glow whatsoever. I love that Rax doesn't fire aimlessly, he takes out the tyres of each of the masked vehicles. Great direction here of Matt Tracker avoiding the stiletto darts. Those things are rather deadly. It's amusing as this scene reaches its conclusion. The masked agents are even more perplexed. Venom has now kidnapped Clara Simpson's dog. What is going on?
What the dickens was that all about?
If you've never seen this episode before, it really is a good mystery, though I've already spoiled the plot in my earlier rant. I love this little bit where the agents ask questions out loud.
Perhaps it is not the answer we need, but the proper question.
How did Venom know Mrs. Simpson was at the bunker to begin with?
How did they know the bunker was there, for that matter?
Well, they wouldn't have come all that way to attack a gas station.
Now, there's a great close-up coming up. It's brief, but it shows a part of Rhino's dashboard. Just look at the detail and accurate structure. These aren't just some random lines illustrated to imply technology, but rather a well thought out visualization of what an advanced vehicle like Rhino would have on the dashboard. Also, the name Ramsey Pugh, very interesting. Even Matt acknowledges that it's a memorable name, and I don't believe for all the right reasons. Now just wait until you see the image of Ramsey Pugh. Now, I'm not one to judge a book by its cover, but the photo we see of the guy, I mean, come on. That photo screams bad guy. I think it's interesting that we get a little brief criminal history of Ramsey Pugh and slowly put together the pieces of how Clara Simpson ended up with his car. There's a great little nod between Matt and Alex. Yep, we've finally figured out what's going on here. Shout out to Nash Gory looking incredibly chilled there, leaning against the wall. Also, prior to Slyrax turning up, what have Venom been up to? Just standing around looking menacingly at Clara Simpson? Now, don't get me wrong, Venom are a terrorist organisation and they have committed some rather heinous crimes with many a plan involving a great loss of life. But putting a dog in a bag and threatening to drop it off a cliff, that's some cold-bloodedness right there. Hey, actually, do you think that's maybe why they chose the base of operations next to a cliff? It wasn't just for the lovely view. It was possibly to drop someone or someone's pet off of. Did they plan that far ahead? Again, wonderful directing here. In every shot, we see the clouds moving. It's completely unnecessary, but it just adds to the dramatic mood of the scene. Ah, the Mask team, attempting to repair their busted vehicles. Good luck with that, guys. And now, as Mask understand the situation they find themselves in, they desperately reach out to their last line of defence, T-Bob. But, nothing seems problematic about that, right? All T-Bob has to do is recover the printing plates and the day will be saved. So yeah, here's T-Bob searching the car formerly owned by Ramsey Pugh, and he's immediately going to regret his next statement.
I think I'd rather fight Venom than do this.
Yes, here we go, Venom attacking Boulder Hill with only T-Bob as the last line of defence. Oh, there's one thing I need to bring up after this scene, but for now enjoy the action, the animation and the Shooky Levy music. Seriously, I love this scene, and I'll point out the sticker from the Panini album that I mentioned earlier in the commentary. I love this battle so much. T-Bob doing all that he can do to fight Venom. Oh, it's coming up here. That shot there, that beautifully animated sequence, there was a still image of that in the sticker album, and Roger Evans and I had no idea who that character was. Turned out it was Miles Mayhem in his outlaw uniform.
Whip on!
T-Bob here using anything and everything against Venom is just awesome. But yes, let me just talk about an awesome custom I only discovered in 2022. So, my friend Bjorn Kortoff, whom I mentioned in the 50 Things About T-Bob video, is a huge Mask fan and a super talented customizer, creating some truly wonderful playsets and figures. Well, he teamed up with the Mad Force Toys customizers and the vending machine we just saw T-Bob use against the Venom agents. These talented fans brought it to life as a genuine Mask weapon. They named it Quencher, and it transforms from a vending machine that you can place outside of the Boulder Hill playset in scale too, to a manned rocket launcher. And if that wasn't amazing enough, Quencher comes with a cartoon accurate T-Bob figure and a figure of my favourite Mask agent Jacques Lafleur, with his uniform coloured after an earlier model sheet that appears in certain licensee material. The detail on Quencher is awesome. It even comes in a box modelled after the original toy packaging, and I do plan to obtain one at some point in the future. And yeah, here comes Mask in kind of working order. As they state, they have to make Venom believe that their vehicles are at full functionality, because they are most definitely not.
What the?
And as we've just seen, the elderly Clara Simpson played her part in foiling Venom, pouring soda into the gas tanks of their vehicles.
I got him!
Which leads to such a wow wow moment. Watch this. After all that effort, a trip, a fall, some oil, and accidental acceleration by Mayhem on Slyrax's Piranha, and the printing plates are no more. Be sure here to pay attention as Venom drive off into the distance. Their vehicles all fall apart, almost like a Looney Tunes kind of moment. And yeah, here we have the episode wrapping up with Miss Simpson saved, Cleopatra, aka Miss Lion saved, though Miss Simpson's car is probably a little worse for wear. Maybe Mask could give her one of their soon-to-be retired vehicles like Firecracker. Of course, here, illusion is the ultimate weapon, and Mask continue to protect their identities. even in the presence of the stunningly unimportant Clara Simpson. Yes, Alex Sector, I'm not letting you live that line down. And now we're back at Matt Tracker's mansion. Remember, he's 28 and he owns a mansion. Oh. I should give a little shout out here to voice actor Sharon Noble, who performs the character of Clara Simpson incredibly well during this episode. Sharon Noble was, and still is, an incredibly talented voice actor, the only female voice actor on the Masked cartoon, playing the roles of both Gloria Baker and Vanessa Warfield to utter perfection. And in this episode, she demonstrates her somewhat scary ability to play elderly voices, even though I'm going to guess that she was probably in her 20s at the time of these recordings. Coming up in this PSA, we hear something very interesting.
Power failure over Boulder Hill, Nevada. Power should return in 1 hour.
That announcement over the tannoy we just heard. This episode stated that Clara Simpson was a resident of Boulder Hill, Nevada, and I believe that this is the only time we hear that Boulder Hill is not just the name of Mask's base of operations, but also an area in Nevada. And yes, we've also just learned that Matt Tracker's mansion is also located in Boulder Hill, Nevada. Huh. Poor T-Bob, even the PSA treats him rough. So yeah, that was Fog on Boulder Hill, one of my favourite Mask episodes. Unique, action-packed, full of awesome set pieces and a great cast of characters, and visually very striking. Actually, I'll briefly mention the end credits here. The sequences from the 3-minute plus promo clearly show that Venom are all too aware of Mask's base of operations launching this all-out attack on the heroes, but the promo was very much its own thing and is not really connected to the series. Even though I wish it were, the visuals are so good. And that's the end of this episode commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.